Okay, so we're back. Let's go ahead and talk about movement. So it's easy, especially compared to Maya. So just remember, hold your right mouse button. You'll notice it goes into this, your cursor changes. And if you move your right mouse button or your mouse, you can actually look around. So you've got mouse look going here. And you'll notice, hey, look, underneath that eye, that's a pretty, recognizable symbol, right? Well, it means we can use WSAD to move around. All right, and we have Q and E allow us to move up and down. All right, the longer you hold a button, the faster you go. Or the longer you hold like a key on the keyboard, the faster it goes. You can also increase the speed much quicker by holding down the Shift key. Cool. And if you get lost going around, you can always like double click on, for example, main camera, and it'll kind of bring it back in view. All right, so one of the things I want to talk about here is currently we are in perspective view. That means things that are farther away are smaller than things that are closer. If for some reason you get into a view that looks kind of weird, it'll look kind of like this. This is isometric view. Isometric, basically everything's the same size, and yes, that's the same thing as isometric games or isometric tile games. Just click on where it says ISO here, and you can bring it back to perspective. All right, if you want a quick view of things, you can actually click on each of these here, and it'll take you and rotate you around to what you want to see, which is cool. All right, other things I want to show you here is if we right click and hold and keep dragging, and you'll notice I can keep going outside of the screen and keep going, and oh hey, it just appeared on the other side. Yeah, you can do that, and it works kind of both ways. Just be careful. All right, cool. So that's basic movement in Unity. So we can kind of move our editing camera around. So this is the editing camera. Unlike Unity, it really doesn't have anything to do with what our final product is. All right. So we've got movement. We could use this tool up here, the hand, and that's just basically to select stuff, even if you're not doing anything with it. So we're going to click this next one here, the move tool. So that is exactly what it sounds like. It's the move tool, allows things to move back and around. It's just like Maya. So we can do that. The next one is going to kind of require us to create some stuff. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to move right up here, and we're going to create an object. So we have several ways we can do this. All right, so the first way is we could go up here to the hierarchy and hit create. This create button has a drop down here. And we're going to go in here, and we're going to go down here to 3D object, and I'm going to drop a plane down. So there it is. It's just plain. Sorry. 2D object. It's actually kind of less than 2D, really, because we see the top here. And if I kind of move down here a little bit, of course it's 2D, so it's flat, but it's also one-sided as well. So there's a good reason for that, and that is because drawing sides that we don't see takes up valuable CPU time that we don't need to use. CPU and GPU, your graphics card. So, all right, so I've moved this around a little bit. We can move it up, down, left, and right. And if you get one of these blocks here, you can move it on too. The reason why we need that is because we are editing a 3D environment with a 2D user interface. Your mouse is 2D, your screen is 2D. Even if you're doing it in VR, technically they're still 2D. They're just tricking you into seeing 3D. All right, so we've moved that around. Each one of these arrows has their own axis, and it'll move on that if you grab that. All right, so we've done that. Let's look at the next tool here. That's actually the rotation tool. Actually, before we go on, let's create one more object here. I'm going to create 3D object and then create a cube, and it's going to pop it over there in this case. So Unity likes to create things wherever it pleases. So right now it has this box here. I've moved it into view. It tries to create things in your view for you. So sometimes it doesn't do exactly what you want. So you'll have to kind of move it. All right, so we've got a block here. We're moving it around. It works pretty cool. The second thing I want to show you here, or the next thing I want to show you here, is rotation. So we're going to click on that. And hey, that tool looks familiar, doesn't it? Sure looks like Maya's tool, doesn't it? Yep, it's because it's exactly the same. It works, is functionally the same. So I'm going to undo this. So just like every other program out there, Control Z is undo. All right, you can grab each one of the rings, and those rings will rotate on that axis. If you grab it in the center here, it allows you to do a free rotation. Be careful, do this very gently, because sometimes it'll get way out of whack and you'll lose it. All right, and of course the outside ring, just like Maya, allows us to rotate around a laser that goes directly through our camera. So we can kind of do that on there. Cool. All right, so I'm going to reset this one back, Control Z. Or if I really want to, if I'm really intent on get everything back the way it is, I can actually go over here to the inspector. So under rotation, it says negative 4.85 degrees by Y of 17.026 by negative Z of 4.927. Okay, well, we could go in here and just type each one out to 0. Or we could be lazy and click the little gear icon over here on the right-hand side. And then go down here and choose Reset Rotation. We can reset the whole thing if we wanted to, but we're just going to hit Reset Rotation because I want to keep it in that same spot. All right. So for some reason it decided to keep the negative 4.85. Well, just reset that to 0. I don't know why it did that. A little bug in it. Not a big deal. All right. So we've got that rotation, and that's cool. Let's go ahead and look at the next tool here. This is the scaling tool. So the scaling tool allows us to scale stuff. Imagine that, right? So I'm going to grab this here. I'm going to kind of rotate my view around. So I'm going to kind of push this in a little bit. I'm doing this for a reason, because we're going to use it later on, which is kind of nice. And we're gonna, later when we get into scripting, we're gonna make this do something. All right, so I've got it. I can move it around here. I've scaled it how I want. And you'll notice here that we have a shadow going on, which is kind of cool. And it takes care of all that for us automatically. All right, so the next one really isn't terribly useful for us right now. I mean, it could be kind of cool if you want to kind of resize stuff like that and changing your view, it'll do this. This is mostly for user interface stuff. We're going to come back to this later. But the next tool is actually pretty cool, and it's one that was added very recently. This is kind of a combination of all these things here. It is like this super tool. It's really cool. So we can move it, we can rotate it, we can scale it, all at the same time with the same tool, and that's amazing. All right. So that's pretty cool. All right, so I'm going to actually use this tool to move this back over here real quick. And yeah, that's kind of the basic usage of all this stuff here. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to save my scene. So this scene, what we're saving is basically a blueprint of what we have. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So I'm going to go up here to File and choose Save Scene As, because I haven't saved this before. And I'm going to name this one first. So leave it where it is. Leave it in Assets. So I'm going to name this one first, because I'm terribly uncreative on naming my stuff here. So I'm going to hit Save on that. And now it has saved it. And you'll notice down here there's a little Unity icon that says First. That is our scene. All right. So if we need to come back to it, we can double click it and open it. So again, make sure you saved and you're good to go. Cool. All right, so we're going to come back in a little bit and we're going to work on this some more. So yeah, cool. See you in a few minutes.